This is Inside Badger Football with head coach Trey Schucker. Inside Badger Football is brought to you by Bell Wealth Services, Welch Funeral Home, Wingfield Properties, Southern Bancorp, Southwest Sporting Goods, Turner, Rogers, Manning, and Plyler, Taylor King Law, Trinity Temple Assembly of God, Doctors Rob and Gary Rucker, Eccles, Thompson, and Kneebone CPA, South Central Connect, Java Primo, Southwest Auto Group, R&T Dixon Enterprises, Ludwig's Bakery, the law offices of Gina White, Patterson Federal Credit Union, Batson Signs, Print Mania, Scott Bird DDS, Sexton Law Firm, Chad Kesterson Shelter Insurance, Chicken Express, Pediatrics Plus, and Providence Veterinary Care. The host of Inside Badger Football is Cooper Darr.
Welcome back to Inside Badger Football. Joining me is Coach Schucker. How are you today, Coach?
Doing wonderful.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to the first episode of Inside Badger Football of the new 2024 football season. And we're just going to have a great time, talk about some football. But first, I want to hop right into it and talk about the Camden-Fairview game that we actually had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to have the show last week, so let's touch on it just a little bit. Coach, talk about the game a little bit.
Yeah, it was a really hard-fought game. I thought our team played really well for pretty much three whole quarters. Third quarter went really long, and after that third quarter, it just seemed like we kind of ran out of steam in the fourth, and that's when Camden took over. We had multiple players playing both ways, and kind of got to our legs. You know, may or may not have been more than one game's worth of time on the clock. You know, we weren't able to really truly know how much time was on the clock. They had a scoreboard out, but it felt like the game was a game and a half long. And but very proud of how we competed. Camden's a really good team. Coach Vaughn does a great job with him and his staff do a great job of having their team prepared every single year, every game. The past couple seasons, they've made it to the semifinals in 5A, and you know, they're a big, physical, fast team. Really good competition for us to see early in the year, and especially week 0, starting off a season with Camden. You know, it shows your weaknesses really quickly and where we need to improve, and that's one of the biggest things to take away from the game. You know, it showed us our weaknesses, and you know, we were able to work on that and improve it from first week to the next, going into Hot Springs, and we were able to apply it, and that was one of the biggest takeaways going from the week 0 game with Camden into Hot Springs game this past Friday night. We were able to get better at the things we needed to, and it showed.
Right. Well, still talking about the Camden-Fairview game, let's actually play some highlight clips. I want to look at this first drive from the Camden-Fairview game. Looking at this O-line, talk about the O-line a little bit.
Yeah. You know, going into the season, you know, we feel like our O-line is one of our biggest strengths of our offense. We've got some veteran guys up there, some guys that have had some really quality reps, some quality games. They're bigger, they're stronger than they were last year. So, you know, we knew going into this game we had to utilize that. We kind of game plan going into it was we wanted to keep the ball on the ground. We felt like that was a strength, you know, especially with having a sophomore at quarterback, or we've got a really talented sophomore at quarterback that really talented arm, but just having a veteran O-line, a veteran running back in Kyle Reed, able to control the run game and just sustain drives was our whole deal going into the game. And so I thought this first drive really set the tone with that. You know, we were able to put about 13, 14 plays together and moved it down the field, kept the drive alive, was in multiple third and short situations, got the first down multiple times, and went all the way down and had an opportunity to score. And we ended up coming away with a field goal. We ended up scoring on a play, but false start penalty put us back, and we weren't able to get in the end zone again, so we ended up settling for a field goal. And that was kind of just the whole deal in the game, you know, was that right there. We played undisciplined in a lot of areas, and you know, there's Seth Molinari kicking the field goal, but we played undisciplined in a lot of areas. I think, you know, that's kind of common in that first game with a lot of teams. You know, we like to play aggressive. We like to have a little chip on our shoulder when we play. You know, it's football, but you know, we've got to learn how to control it. And so in the first game, we struggled with that, and but we really capitalized on that moving forward into week 2. So I thought we played a lot cleaner against Hot Springs than we did against Camden, and the result was a lot better.
Right. Well, you mentioned Hot Springs. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game.
Yeah.
We learned from week 0, really, in Arkansas. We have a week 0. So week 0, Camden-Fairview. Week 1, Hot Springs, huge victory. Talk about Hot Springs a little bit. What are some things you took away from Camden-Fairview's game that you put into the Hot Springs game?
Yeah, the biggest thing going from Camden to Hot Springs was we need to play with more discipline in all phases of the game. And I thought we did that, and that's really why we were able to have the success that we had, I feel like, going from Camden into Hot Springs. Hot Springs is a really good team. They had some uncharacteristic things that happened to them, but we'd like to think that we kind of created that and forced that issue. And, it just comes down to disciplined football play, and that's what we did when we played with on Friday. And so that's something that we'd like to continue to move forward with and continue to get better at moving forward into Lake Hamilton this next week. But, I was very proud of our team overall against Hot Springs. It was a 3 phases of the game victory. Offense played really well. Defense created 5 turnovers, I believe, scored on 2 of them. And then special teams did a really good job of creating momentum. And then creating good field position for our offense and defense as well.
For sure. Just like you said, using all aspects of the game, defense, offense, special teams, all creating scores for the big purpose of the game. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about the defense a little bit. What defensively, as we go into the highlights, we're going to look at the defensive highlights first. Let's talk about some defensive players. What was y'all's plan coming into the game? Just talk about defense.
The big thing going in, we challenged our players on defense to start fast and then to withstand that the entire game. Play 4 quarters of discipline, hard-nosed football, and I thought we did that. And, the strength of our defense, we feel like, is our defensive line. We've got 5-6 guys that we feel good about going in and getting good reps and feeling like there's no drop-off. And so our D-line really set the tone for us, we feel like, on Friday. We really got after it. Hot Springs has a big offensive line. I mean, they're big, heavy guys, but our defensive line really fired off the ball, did really good in their block destruction of the run game, and then, did a really good job in the pass game as well, creating, disrupting the quarterback, creating, off rhythm plays. And so that's the biggest thing we want to be is aggressive. We want to be violent, and we want to get after it on defense. And I thought our defense did that. We played with energy. We played with positive emotion, and that's the way we want to be on defense.
For sure. And I know we have an offensive play snuck in here a little bit, but still talking about defense. Talk about how whenever one guy makes a play, the rest of the team really does get there and crowds around the ball, rip the ball out. How big is that for Arkadelphia Badger football, trying to create turnovers for the offense?
It's huge. One of their biggest strengths is their running back core. They've got 2 really big running backs, 2 fast, athletic running backs. And so we've got to get as many hats to the ball as possible. We've got to, we take pride in being a hard-nosed defense, and a hard-nosed defense pursues the ball really well. And that's one thing that we take pride in. Coach Kaiser, our defense coordinator, and the rest of the staff, they're tackling every day in their individual drills. Obviously when we go team and things like that, there's tackling, but we make it a priority and an emphasis every single day. And our kids do a really good job of responding to that and applying it to the field. And that's one of the biggest things of why we're so good on defense.
For sure. Talking about the defensive line once again, you said it's really where a lot of the leaders are, the most, let's say, they've been there a while. And let's talk about some of the defensive linemen. What are some of the defensive linemen? What do they do? How are they good at it? What are their names?
Yeah, so just starting on the interior guys, we've got seniors, Nakeeson Wimberly and LaJavis Moody. There are 2 interior guys that just thick, stocky guys that are strong, explosive, they fire off the ball, really good in the block destruction of the run game. So they're really setting the tone in the interior. They're tough guys to get, you've got to double team them from an offensive perspective. They're tough to really block one-on-one. And that's where you see, when offenses are asking their O-line to block those guys one-on-one, it's when we're being disruptive from the defensive line. And then we've got really tall and athletic defensive ends, Skylar McClure, Xavion Williams, Jacoby Campbell. And then we've also got Lance Gully, who kind of rotates in inside and outside. But you know, we've got really disruptive ends that are athletic, and they can get flat down the line. They can get skinny off the edge, and be really good in the pass game.
For sure. Well, moving into the offense, we are looking at the offense highlights right here, right now. So talk about the game plan coming into the game, talk about some key players and some key points of emphasis for the Hot Springs game.
Yeah, the biggest thing, and it'll probably be the same thing from week to week. You know, we'd already talked about our offensive line feeling like that's one of our strengths. You know, we've got to set the tone early in the run game. We've got to be able to control the line of scrimmage and use our offensive line as a way to create big plays. And you know, if we can continue to do that week in and week out, we will, because we've got good players in our running back core, and then we've got some really talented receivers as well. You know, we just saw Jay. Jay's one of those guys. Number 3 was one of those guys that we can throw it to and hand it off to. You know, on jet sweeps, on inside run game, on different things. He's just that explosive of a player.
Right. What I really liked seeing this past week against Hot Springs was how your offensive line was able to get kick-out blocks, but also Reed and your other running backs being able to get hit but also get more yards after carry. How much do y'all emphasize that in practice? And we see that come out in games.
Yeah, it's daily. You know, from the running back position, you've got to be able to keep moving your feet on contact. You've got to be able to drive with a low pad level. You know, we want to get a good forward lean with our pad level and be able to break tackles. And, you know, we know what we've got in Kyle Reed. Kyle Reed's pretty much a 3-year starter for us. And then this is really encouraging to see number 21, Blake Moody, come in and have really the past 2 weeks he's been able to come in and do really well and help us out. You know, he's always been a really solid runner, but, you know, Friday night really showed that he's able to be consistent in the pass game as well. We were able to get him out of the pocket and throw him into some routes, and he handled it really, really well from the very first play. His first play in was a swing pass that we got him the ball in a 3rd and long situation. He got upfield, got a first down. And so Blake's a really good complement to Kyle in the backfield. So having both of those two is going to be huge for us moving forward.
Right. Just watching Moody, I mean, me and Dr. Root were having a blast just getting to watch everything he was doing this past week. But obviously that's not able to happen without some other blocking and also receiving. So let's talk about the receivers a little bit. Coach, talk about your receivers.
Yeah, we've got 2 seniors, led by 2 seniors, Braden Wagner and then Jay Purifoy. Those 2 guys, again, have played a lot of snaps in their career. You know, Braden transferred into us from Texas last summer, but he was a starter on his Texas team as a sophomore, and so he's gotten a lot of reps over his high school career. Same thing with Jay. Jay was as a sophomore, rotated in and got a lot of quality reps as a sophomore, and so obviously he was a starter last year and now this year. So, you know, those 2 are battle tested. We've also got Orion Roberts comes in from the defense side. He's a starting corner for us. He's just athletic. That was Orion right there on the screen, catching a bubble, getting upfield. He's one of our fastest players. Then we got Maddox Finley, plays our outside position, just tall and lanky. He was our backup quarterback last year, but he's so athletic that we had to find a way to get him the ball out in space, and that's one of the biggest things for him. He was able to transition over the summer, really took on the role, and he's still learning, but he's just an athletic kid that's not afraid and gets in and has really good hands as well.
For sure. Let's talk about the quarterback now. Obviously, he's a sophomore.
Yeah.
Just first thoughts, you look at a sophomore quarterback, you're like, oh my, he's about to play 2 5A teams and a 6A team, but he's actually handling himself very, very well. Coach, talk about your quarterback.
Yeah, so, you know, one thing with him is he's got a talented arm, you know, and he's fearless. You know, yeah, he's a sophomore, but, you know, he gets out there and he acts like he's already done it for a whole season. And so that's one of the reasons why we felt like it was best for us to go with him. And he's really taken over the role, done a really good job of running our offense. Our seniors have done a really good job of kind of gathering around him and helping him out, you know, helping him through some things. You know, our team understands there's going to be some learning curves in there, but Bryce has done a really good job of getting better every week, and we hope to continue that moving forward. This is a big run by Blake Moody, one of the biggest plays of the game in our opinion. You know, we thought this was something that kind of broke it open for us. You know, Blake got around the edge, took on about 3 or 4 tacklers at the same time, and somehow managed to find his way out the back end of that and use his speed to outrun the defense. So that was a big momentum play for us.
Yeah, that was an incredible play. Just watching it from the press box, and we were like, "Oh man, he's tackled," but no, he just kept going all the way, another extra 20 yards.
He's a tough runner.
So that was pretty awesome. Talk about your seniors a little bit. This is the first show. Let's talk about your senior leadership. How do they lead on and off the field?
Yeah, so Carson Croza and Braxton Fairchild are 2 seniors that we have up on our front line. They play they're both tackle positions. They're very vocal, just guys that are steady, always positive, and very involved in the community as well. One thing that our seniors did this summer was, they made a video, and there were some kids that have some different illnesses. They made a video of encouragement and sent it out to those guys, and that was a really cool deal. We always want to give back in some way, shape, or form. And Arkadelphia, our community supports our football team extremely well. Football is a big thing. It's important. And anytime we have an opportunity to give back, we'd like to do that. And our seniors do a really good job in being on board with that.
Sure. We had a lot of great, really, punts and a lot of great kickoffs and a lot of great point after touchdowns. Talk about your kicker a little bit, Coach.
Yeah, Seth Molinari is our kicker. And then I guess we can also talk about our long snapper, Casey Pye. It's a specialty position. Guy that really takes an emphasis in it. He wants to play at the next level as a long snapper. It starts with that. As up on the front line in any situation, it starts with the snap. And Casey does a really good job of that. And then, into our kicker, Seth Molinari, he's kicked a field goal the past 2 weeks. He's been perfect on his PATs. He's a guy that, again, takes it really serious. If you come to the game and watch, he's going to be on the sideline kicking into the kicking net the entire game. You don't really find that a lot in kickers. They'll go get a couple kicks a lot of times. They're kind of hanging out watching until they're called upon. But he's over there kicking the entire game, and he wants everything to be perfect. And so he takes it that serious, and that's really good to have. He's one of those guys that he's a soccer guy, but he's really taking it football and really taking it serious with. In the summer, he took the kicking bag home with him and made sure to go find a spot and just continue to kick all summer long, even though we weren't practicing like over the dead period or something. He's kicking the entire dead period over at the park or the rec center or whatever. But, he's one of those guys that very reliable. He's increased his leg strength in his kickoffs. He was able to put it down on like the 4-yard line, I believe, Friday. And that's huge to have. It'll help our cover down unit. The further we can get it close to the end zone or if we can get it in the end zone, just sets our defense up for good field position to defend.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see every single position really perfecting their craft, all the way from the kicker, from the quarterback to the defensive lineman, the defensive back. It's just amazing to see. Let's actually go back to the Camden-Fairview game just a little bit. I want to talk about the players of the week from Camden-Fairview. On offense, we had senior offensive lineman. We've already talked about him a couple times today. Carson Croza. Just from my standpoint, I'm seeing this guy encourage the younger guys as they got to go in this past Friday. And talk about Carson just a little bit more.
He's one of those guys that he wants to be a hype guy. He wants to be that encourager, and he does a great job of it. Against Camden, our whole game plan going in was to keep the ball on the ground, kind of shorten the game at times, but sustain the drive through the run game. And that's Carson led us on that. That senior leader, keeping us motivated, keeping us hyped on the field, on the sideline. He was the guy, and that he had his best game. He was our graded out the best on the offensive line.
Yeah. Moving on to the defensive player of the week versus Camden-Fairview, we have senior linebacker Reese Campbell. Talk about Reese a little bit.
Yeah, Reese is somebody that we didn't really talk much about him in the clips, and when we were talking about the defense. But Reese is a senior. He's a returning starter for us. Again, one of those guys that are just steady. He's been in the situation. He's a veteran. He's one of those guys that we can rely on. He led us in tackles on the field against Camden and created a turnover also, or created a forced fumble. Just one of those guys that we know he's going to make a play when we need it.
For sure. Special teams, Seth Molinari, like we just said, amazing kicker. Talk about him just a little bit more.
Yeah, junior Seth Molinari. First points of the game came from Seth. Our first points of the season came from Seth. Drove down and then ended up settling for a field goal, and then was perfect on his PATs as well. Really did a good job with his kickoffs also.
The Badger Spirit Award. goes to junior defensive lineman Clark Wingfield. Talk about Clark a little bit.
Yeah, Clark's one of those guys that, he's a team player. He's willing to do whatever it takes to make the team better. We asked Clark to go from linebacker to defensive end, and he took it in stride. He's doing a great job, gets better every week. Just really represents what we want our entire team to look like in terms of, our Spirit Award winner, somebody that models by example. He's a kid that does, everything right. When you ask him to do something, he's going to do it. He's never going to complain. He's never going to, say anything negative. He's just a guy that really represents the award really well for us.
That's awesome. And moving from linebacker to defensive line, that's not an easy thing, and also to keep morale high. So
absolutely,
that is a huge prestigious honor for him.
It is, and he's increased his strength to where he's able to do that. The way he developed over the offseason is kind of where he fits now for us.
Love it. Well, moving into the Hot Springs Players of the Week, Arkadelphia versus Hot Springs this last Friday. Huge win. Let's talk about the Offensive Player of the Week, junior running back Blake Moody. Let's talk about him a little bit more.
Blake had multiple explosive plays over the course of the game. He might not have had the most yards overall, but just when it comes to creating the explosive plays, and he also had a huge explosive play for a touchdown we saw. In the moments we needed somebody to step up, Blake was one of those guys that did that for us, and we felt like overall was our Offensive Player of the Week for us this week.
Moving to the Defensive Player of the Week, we have junior defensive back Amari Ford. Talk about Amari.
Amari plays safety for us. Had his best game. Amari this is his first year to start for us. He plays free safety position, and he had a turnover for he had an interception for a touchdown. He's the one that intercepted the ball and kind of made his way through the offense trying to tackle him, and it was a really cool play, but ended up getting to the end zone, putting points on the board for us. Just had a really good night overall.
Moving to special teams, you just talked about it in the last one, but junior deep snapper Casey Pye.
Yeah, deep snapper is one of those things that people probably don't really think much about until there's a bad snap, and Casey's one of the most reliable deep snappers that we've had. We've already talked about how much he takes it serious. He wants to improve his craft every week. And Casey's one of those guys that's reliable. We know the snap's going to be there. He's done a great job of it, and he's been consistent, very deserving of the award.
That's great. Well, the Badger Spirit Award goes to Carson Hood. Talk about Carson.
So Carson Hood's our Badger Spirit Award winner this week because Carson is one of our 7th grade football players, actually. His older brother is Bryson McCoy, the sophomore quarterback. But Carson comes to the football field every day after school, and he films our practices. And so without him, we wouldn't have as much film to get better by. And so he does a really good job of coming over and just being a helper. And then on Friday nights, he's the same way, just whatever he can do to be a part of the program and be a part of the team in some way, and that he can help. And that's, kind of represents that award. And one of the only names that we thought of this week would be him, and he's very, very deserving of it.
That's great. I love to see the younger classmen getting to help out the varsity football team. And he's looking to your players right now on that team. He wants to be like them.
No doubt. One day he will.
Yeah, he will. And him just getting to film y'all's practices, also helps y'all out a ton.
Right.
Without him, y'all couldn't really have the success.
That's right.
That you got to have this last Friday.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, we want to introduce a new segment to y'all this week. We had an opportunity for an interview on the football team. So we will shoot it over to Arkadelphia High School, where we are going to interview Jay Purifoy.
Hello, I am here with Jay Purifoy, number 3 for the Arkadelphia Badgers. Jay, how long have you been playing football, and what's your favorite part about it?
I've been playing football since I was like 5 or 6. My favorite part about it is the competition of it and how physical it can get.
Jay, what is your favorite thing about Friday nights at Badger Stadium?
The band and how lit it is, the crowd when we score or defense gets a big stop, how excited they get, and we just feel that. So the adrenaline rushing and the plays that we get to make.
As you go into your senior year, what is your role on the field?
I play receiver and just to make plays when the ball comes my way.
And then what is your role off the field?
To be a leader inside of school, take care of myself so I can take care of my team and motivate my teammates to have good grades and act right in class.
Going into your senior season, what is your plan to help your team achieve the goals that y'all have set?
Each day in practice, we just go at it. We compete. But at the end of the day, we know we're a team. And as one, we come together. We uplift each other and bring each other up. And just our goal at the end of the week is to be the best team on the field. Each play, no off plays, just play hard all together.
Okay, Jay, now it's time for a pop quiz. What's your favorite color?
Red and green.
Food.
Seafood.
Subject in school.
Social studies.
Olympic sport to watch.
Basketball, but that's over now.
And what is your favorite NFL team?
The Chiefs, we're going for a three-peat this year.
Awesome. That was a great interview from Millie. Thank you, Millie, for doing that for us. Talk about Jay Purifoy just a little bit. I know we've talked about him a lot today, but obviously he's a leader on and off the field. Let's talk about Jay a little bit more.
Jay's one of those guys that brings the energy. Whenever he's hyped, everybody else is hyped. And Jay's done a really good job of being an encourager this year. He's kind of taken on that role. He's putting those sophomores under his wing, and he's trying to encourage them and show them the right way to do things, holds our guys accountable, and anytime that somebody's not towing the line, he's going to let them know. And he's done a really good job of just being that guy that keeps everything consistent this year.
That's great. Well, the past is in the past now. We're learning from Hot Springs in the Camden-Fairview game. Let's look around the 4A7. Let's look at the results from this past week. It looks like we have Malvern and Glen Rose. Malvern taking the win 34-28. Moving over to Mills and Ashdown. Huge victory from Mills, 46-0. Nashville and Hope 51-7, Bauxite Monticello 20-41, Smackover 64, Fountain Lake 36. And I actually got an opportunity to play a lot of these teams, and I mean these are some physical football teams, but the one we want to focus on obviously is the Hot Springs 14, Arkadelphia 52. Looking at the 4A7 standings, it looks like we have Malvern sitting at 2-0. Arkadelphia at second, 1-1, and then Bauxite, Nashville, Ashdown is kind of your top five looking at right there. But we are still in the preseason, Coach.
Yeah.
Arkadelphia had 2 5A games that they just played, a 6A game coming up, and let's look at the 4A7 schedule for this week coming up. Ashdown at Hope, Magnolia at Bauxite, Center Point at Fountain Lake, and then we have the rest of the games and some I'm looking at is Malvern at Stuttgart. That should be a good physical game.
Yeah.
Nashville at Dardanelle. But the one we want to focus on is Lake Hamilton at Arkadelphia. This should be a pretty good game. Another home game this week. Coach, how are we feeling about it? How are we feeling?
We feel good. Anytime that we get to play in Badger Stadium, we're excited to get to do that. Lake Hamilton's a really good opponent. They're well known in the 6A West, competitive every single year. When people think about Lake Hamilton, they think about smash mouth football, and that's what thgoing to bring here to Badger Stadium, and we've got to meet and exceed that. We feel like they think they can probably run over us. We're going to have to game plan and get our guys right. We got to be ready for it. That's one thing that we take pride in is being a hard-nosed team as well, and so it should be a really good matchup.
So we're looking at Lake Hamilton right here, and obviously they're a big team. They're a 6A team. They have guys on the depth chart. Talk about a 4A team going against a 6A team. How do the Badgers feel going against a bigger team?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, we don't really talk about classification much. We just want to schedule the best teams that we can find. Would like to stay in the general area, obviously, but we're just trying to find somebody good to play that prepares us for our conference. Historically, our conference is the toughest conference in 4A. And we just want to play good teams and make us better and go compete. We want to be considered one of the best teams in the state. And the only way you do that is to schedule good teams. And so that's how we create our mentality and mindset into that.
Love it. Well, talking a little bit about Hot Springs, what are some things that you're kind of hitting on in practice a little bit this week as you learned from Hot Springs game?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is just continuing to get better at defeating the run blocks. We're going to see a lot of that this week. Being disciplined on the back end with our DBs in the pass game. We've got to be able to run fit, but at the same time, we've got to recognize pass. And then on the offense side of the ball is continuing to Finish blocks up front. You know, there's always things to improve on. We felt like we had a really good game offensively, but there's always things to improve on. And, you know, finishing those blocks up front, continue to be strong runners at the running back position, and then continue to make the plays and clean up our routes in the pass game at the receiver position is some of the biggest things that we needed to take away from Hot Springs going into Lake Hamilton.
That's great. Well, you talked about the defensive line. A little bit of a point of emphasis is you want to defeat run blocks. How's your defensive line coach kind of getting the guys ready for this week? What certain things are y'all looking at?
Yeah, so you know, Bobby Evans is our defensive line coach. He's been here this is his 5th season here. Does a great job at getting our guys developed. Just the way he coaches, the way he motivates, the way he inspires our defensive line. Does a great job at getting our guys ready. That, you know, they really buy into him and what he has to coach them. And so just through individual drills of whatever we're doing that week, the way we're aligning, just the whole scheme overall. He does a really good job of finding ways to implement that into his individual drills and individual time and meetings during the week. And that's pretty much the way we get prepared. You know, he does a really good job of instilling, you know, just a tough, hard-nosed mentality into those guys, and then teaching them to apply it to whatever our scheme is that week.
That's great. Well, we don't want to talk about Lake Hamilton too much. We want y'all to come and join us. Kickoff is set for 7 p.m. at Badger Stadium. We hope you'll join us, and if you can't come to the game, you can come watch the broadcast at ArkadelphiaBadgerTV.com. Coach, thanks for joining, and I'll see y'all next week.
Go Badgers.
Go Badgers.
Inside Badger Football is brought to you by Bell Wealth Services, Welch Funeral Home, Wingfield Properties, Southern Bancorp, Southwest Sporting Goods, Turner, Rogers, Manning, and Plyler, Taylor King Law, Trinity Temple Assembly of God, Doctors Rob and Gary Rucker, Eccles, Thompson, and Kneebone CPA, South Central Connect, Java Primo, Southwest Auto Group, R&T Dixon Enterprises, Ludwig's Bakery, the law offices of Gina White, Patterson Federal Credit Union, Batson Signs, Print Mania, Scott Bird DDS, Sexton Law Firm, Chad Kesterson Shelter Insurance, Chicken Express, Pediatrics Plus, and Providence Veterinary Care. Inside Badger Football is produced weekly by the Rogers Department of Communications at Ouachita Baptist University and the Ouachita Sports Digital Network.